Okay, so we got cut off. I told you this was going to be me going much slower through this, so I hope it is helpful. So let's start back at John Doe. This is my first author that I chose. I think his reading is very helpful. So if you remember in the last slide, that reading talked about drinking 64 ounces of water a day is the standard goal. All right, so coming down here, just to reiterate, I've got my first and second sentence where I introduce the issue. I'm using language to communicate my stance on this. I'm saying that it's important. I'm saying how much it takes up in the earth and the atmosphere, and I'm saying that it's the human being's source for nourishment and refreshment. You can use language in the connotation of words to communicate your stance to your reader, as opposed to going, I am for this, if that makes sense. So coming down to my first author, this is how I phrase him. First, I give his name, John Doe, and then I introduce the article, John Doe in his piece, The Importance of Water, and then I go into his point. So again, I have my author, I introduce his piece, his article, The Importance of Water, and I summarize his main point. And he states that each person should be drinking at least 64 ounces of water a day. Okay? And then I'm going to transition to my next author. So I use a transitional word, while, to denote to my reader that I am beginning to compare and to relate these two articles together. So I say, while this information is helpful, Amanda Hello adds another dimension. So here I go, transitioning. I use a comparative language. I use the word while, and I say, while this information is helpful, I'm paving the way for my next author to my reader to be maybe more specific, maybe more helpful, is what they're expecting now. So I say, for my second author, in her article, Water, What Is It Good For? So I've introduced my author, I've introduced her article, and now I'm going to summarize what she says. She points out that water shouldn't be dictated as a standard to all people, but should be based holistically on an individual's needs. Okay, so let's back up. My first two sentences are the issue and where I stand. My third sentence is my first author and his main point. I have a transitional sentence as sentence number 4. And then in the 5th sentence down here, I begin to talk about my second author and what she stands for in her summary of her piece. Now, my next sentence is going to go into that comparison where I'm making the comparison. I'm connecting the dots for my reader. I'm telling my reader how they're similar, how they're different, and how they're relating to this issue and where I stand on it. So I say, while both authors discuss the importance of water in our everyday lives, Hello emphasizes the importance of individualized rationing and the critical impact that water has in our current life stages. In this essay, okay, I'm going to stop there. So what I do here, instead of going back and forth with the author saying, well, John Doe does this, but Amanda Hello does this, instead of doing that, I pick out the most important thing to me that's going to be relevant to my opinion, and that's what I point out to my reader. That way, my reader now understands that John Doe is looking at it from a very general standpoint, whereas Amanda Hello is looking at it from a very individualized standpoint. And I am agreeing with the individualized standpoint. So that's what I'm going to emphasize for my readers. And then I come down here to the very last sentence and I give my opinion. In this essay, I argue that each person should have access to an individualized plan that helps them predict their needed water intake per day and emphasizes the importance of a daily baseline for their optimal health. So let's recount what we've got so far. Up here, I've got my issue. Down here in the third sentence, I introduce my first author, his article piece, and his summary. I have a transitional statement that introduces my second author, and then the next sentence goes into her article and what she is talking about in the summary. Then I compare and contrast what the authors are saying, and I open the door for my opinion. From this point, I can go straight into my thesis statement and then straight into my reasons, where I can really hash out what I think, why I think it, and the evidence I have to back it up for my readers. Remember, the important part of all of this is to make room for your voice to be heard effectively and efficiently by your reader, so that you can communicate in the best way possible what you're trying to say, your thoughts on the issues, and who you've gathered around you to support your opinion. So it might take you some time to come up with the wording around your synthesis answers, but no fear. If you get stuck, just look back at the example one here. It's very helpful to maybe have an example up and then try to use the same wording and plug in your thoughts and your opinions, your answers into that wording and have it be similar. Remember that by the end of your synthesis, you should be prepared to segue into your thesis statement. Also remember, comparison and contrast language helps greatly when discussing two works. Using words like however, while, or yet are words that are simple that help the reader know you're comparing these two authors, you're contrasting these two authors. If you need more words or you can't think of any more to use, this is something you can Google, and there will be a plethora of information come up for you, lots of different words that you can choose from. Don't be scared to use the thesaurus online either. I always have my thesaurus up when I'm working on papers as well. And remember, the most important part of your thesis and your synthesis and your essay in general is your voice, your opinion. If you think back to what we talked about in class on Thursday, remember that your authors that you've chosen, you're not supposed to prop them up. They are supposed to prop you up. So use those authors as scaffolds for your voice to be the main event. Remember that those authors are simply opening the doors for your voice. You're the main event. They're the pre-show. You're the main event. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or concerns, or you still need some help with getting your synthesis straight, please email me. I'd be happy to meet with you during my office hours. And I can also work with you via email on it, and we can go back and forth with that if that works better. Okay, have a great day.